Hi everybody, this is Guru Francis, Big Boy Screamador. Today's another episode of Bayani Talk. Hi everybody, this is Guru Francis, Big Boy Screamador. Today's another episode of Bayani Talk. And today is actually going to be pertaining a lot to me being a Filipino martial arts teacher through Filipino Martial Arts School. I actually had a really deep conversation with one of my students in regards to the difference between a McDojo and what we're doing. Now, let me first point out that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the school making money. That's how we're going to progress the art, in my opinion. If we keep giving this away, nobody's going to see value to it. If we don't perceive value to it, then how are we going to ever expect anybody else to value what we're offering, right? So making money, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I know that there's some schools there that are shy or are a little bit apprehensive in charging their students, but that's to each their own. That's their business. Literally none of my business. But do I charge my students? Yes, I do. Do I charge them a little bit more than what the normal martial arts school does? Yes, I do. One of the deepest conversations I've had with another Filipino martial arts business owner. His name is actually Grand Tuhon Pat O'Malley of Rapid Arnis, right? He actually told me one time, he's like, find out what the local Taekwondo school charges or what the karate school charges and charge 4 times more than that, because that's how much more valuable FMA really is. Now, if you're offended by that, that's not my intent. I'm just saying everybody perceives that their own martial arts is more of value than any others. Okay, so with that being said, it was hard for me to determine how much to charge, because in business, they always tell you, find out the cost of running your company and then, your everyday operational costs, and then mark it up from that. Well, when I first started teaching Filipino martial arts, I didn't have any operational cost. I was teaching at a location, at a church in the Philippines for free, and the place was huge, and it was across the street from the Neta Park, where all the other Filipino martial arts practitioners teach, right? And if you've ever been to the Philippines, it kind of rains there a lot. So the mere fact that I had a roof over my head was already in deep value, but the church that I was attending, Central United Methodist Church, off of TM Calao, they let me teach there for free. And, I tithe, of course, but that's what they did. They didn't charge me. So I was very blessed by that. So I still didn't know how much to charge until I realized that when I first started charging 500 pesos a month, nobody signed up. So I thought, man, maybe I'm charging too much. I just moved to the Philippines. So I haven't lived in the Philippines since I was 9 years old at that point. And so that was 21 years prior to that. Wow. Okay. So I wasn't sure, like maybe I'm charging too much. Then I talked to Pat O'Malley, and then he was telling me, dude, you need to charge more. And I even talked to my other friend, Kuya Roland Isla of Cali de Leon of Isla Mandirigba. He said, you need to charge more. So I did. I started charging 1,000 pesos. I instead of going less, I went more. And that's when the students started rolling in. Isn't that weird, right? So again, the moment I started giving myself value is the moment the students started rolling in. And again, here in the United States, I'm not going to tell you my price because I don't advertise that now. But when I was charging what I was charging before, I would get maybe the most 6-7 students. Not bad, right? It was like, oh, easy money, right? Then I tripled my price. Now I'm over 20 students. So again, it is about the value. So again, as far as you making money as a school, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If I am a McDojo because I make money off of my school, then call me a McDojo. But before you do label me McDojo, let me share you with the differences. I am very blessed, to have 3 world champions. I have Raymond, I have Mark, and I have Jeremy. These 3 gentlemen are world champions. Raymond and Mark have been to the world championship multiple times, and Jeremy, this was in 2018, that was his first time at the show, and walked away as a world champion. One of the most common things the most common comments that I get from other practitioners and other instructors is that they've always found my boys to be very respectful. Good job, boys. That's definitely something I encourage for my students, to always be respectful, to always be good sports. We always shake each other's hands no matter what, and that they can't determine what style that they're fighting because they can't watch Raymond and know how Mark and Jeremy are fighting, or any of that combination. Each one of my students fights differently. But why is that? Well, I mean, in many schools, Okay, not knocking them. That's the way they want to run it. In many schools, the way that they do it is copy me, emulate me, right? I punch this way or I strike this way. You have to strike exactly the exact same way. Hey, if that's the way you guys run your school, again, it's none of my business. Literally, it's definitely your business. But the way I teach is more from a philosophical standpoint. What I'm trying to say is that I tell my students, okay, the reason why we move this way is because of this. The reason why we move this way is because of that, right? And then there's foundational philosophies that I always teach my students, and one of them being the prime one, being that efficiency in movement. Don't do more than you have to, right? So when I tell them, okay, like for example, when they're hitting the bag with a stick, right? New students tend to squeeze the stick the whole time, right? And then I show them like I'll hit a punching bag. This is me hitting the bag with squeezing the stick. Bam. This is me hitting the bag, not squeezing the stick till right before the point of impact. Bam. And the next question I ask them, like, which one sounded more powerful? And 99 out of 100, they always say the second one. So then the question becomes, why would I, work harder and get less than work less and get more? Right? If I can generate more power on my strike by not exerting more energy, then why aren't we all doing that? Right? And those philosophical mindsets, when I tell that to my students, you can see in their face, you go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because it does make a lot of sense, right? The philosophy is there. So once that you understand the philosophy, then they're gonna interpret that in their own way. They have the same understanding, but their expression of it, not interpretation, but their expression of it is going to be expressed in their own way, right? So now that's why all my students don't fight exactly alike, because FMA, just like I've been sharing many times, being a big person, people always say, how can you you're not a Filipino martial artist because you're a big person. But for those who know that I am. I move like a Filipino martial artist. I don't look like I move somebody who's a big person, right? I've received that comment before. You move like a skinny person, right? And thank you for that, by the way. But because FMA, you don't have to be body type specific to do Filipino martial arts. Filipino martial arts adapt to who you are. So meaning FMA has always been adaptable to the person, not the person needs to adapt to FMA. Now, is there conditioning you need to do? Of course you do. Am I saying you don't have to be healthy to do FMA? Of course not. You should be healthy. You should do everything you can to be as healthy as you can. But if you're not, if you have a specific body type, you can still do Filipino martial arts, right? Now, with that being said, the reason why we're not a McDojo is because I am not churning the same exact fighter every single time. What makes a McDojo, and the reason why we call it McDojo is because McDonald's, they make their Big Mac exactly the same way as if here in California, as in New York, as in Florida, and maybe in even in other parts of the world. I don't know. Maybe they do. I've never been all over the world. But for the most part, like the Big Mac here in, like, say, Riverside County is the same Big Mac is in Ventura County or San Diego County. That's a McDojo. There's no individualism to it. There's no artistry to it. It's still decent. I wouldn't say it's good, but it's still decent, but it still does not have the individualistic character. Like when a chef makes their specialty dish, no other chef can ever duplicate that kind of dish. They have to do it their own special way, right? So I guess the best interpretation or the best metaphor that I have as to the difference between FMA and the other McDojos is, in the McDojo, if I, as a teacher, I tell my students, please make me a table, it's giving them an IKEA box with instructions, right? So every one of my students are gonna make the exact same table. In Filipino martial arts, when I say to my students, please make me a table, here's some bunch of wood, make me a table. No instructions, they're gonna build it on their own. They have the foundation, they have the understanding and how to make it structurally sound, but they're gonna make it individually on their own. So every one of them are gonna make a table completely different. But they're all tables, they're all functional, and they're both all really great. That's the difference between Filipino martial arts and a McDojo, is that the McDojo turns out the same fighter over and over and over and over again, while Filipino martial arts turns out individuals over and over and over again. I don't know, do you agree? Do you agree that this is the difference between Filipino martial arts and McDojos? Comment down below. And if you are looking for a school that will teach you about your individualism, please visit us at www.fmaschool.com. We are now offering it in Orange County and, of course, in Riverside County and in Inland Empire. And if you have any questions or concerns, please email us at info@fmaschool.com. But sign up today. Again, my name is Guru Francis, Big Boy Screamador. Peace out, God bless, and keep swinging them sticks.